Hello, I'm John Featherston, founder and CEO of RISMedia. We are experiencing an unprecedented era of consolidation and transformation across the entire real estate industry. The pace, the scale, and depth of these changes in both the MLS and the brokerage sectors are truly remarkable. And we at RISMedia are busier than ever covering all of these happenings for you. In this extraordinary year of change, consolidation, and opportunity, review our agenda for RISMedia's 38th annual CEO and Leadership Exchange on September 30th through October 2nd in Washington, D.C. See the exceptional lineup of industry leaders participating and reserve your seat today for the industry's most powerful independent leadership event. Invest in yourself, invest in your company, and position your organization for success in this new era of change. I'd like to thank the more than 400 real estate brokerage owners, executives, brand leaders, MLS executives, and service partners who have already committed to attending the 38th annual CEO and Leadership Exchange. I'll see you in Washington. Welcome to RISMedia's Industry Briefing. 2026 has already proven to be the greatest year of consolidation in the history of the real estate industry. And we still have 6 more months left in this incredible year of consolidation, change, and more importantly, opportunity. Today, we'll be exploring the industry-shaping acquisition by eXp of NextHome, as well as other industry happenings, live with Leo Pareja and James Dwiggins. Leo, of course, is the CEO of eXp Realty, and James is the president of NextHome. So let's get started. Today, we'll be discussing the industry-shaping acquisition by eXp of NextHome, okay? And I have a number of questions about this and other happenings within the industry, so let's get started. Leo and James, welcome.
Thanks for having us, John. We're excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have both of you. Yes.
Yeah.
I think our subscribers have seen both of you over the years, both in person at the annual RISMedia CEO and Leadership Exchange, which again this year is in Washington, D.C., September 30th to October 2nd, where both of these individuals will be playing a big role in Washington. You've been tremendous, and you've been participating in a number of different things with RISMedia. But most importantly, you've been innovators in our industry. And I think right now, what you've just accomplished is something our industry is extremely interested in. So let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about what the acquisition means to you and to the industry. Now, question for you, Leo, is in this era of real estate consolidation, you said in 2022 that you've been accused of being lucky because you're ready to pounce on the opportunities and saw them first. I heard you last September around our CEO exchange talking about possibilities, and I believe it was about that time that you started considering an opportunity with eXp with NextHome. Can you tell us a little bit about that time period and what drove you to pursue this acquisition?
Yeah, no, great question. I think where James and I started to really talk was actually at your event. I think it was right before I went on stage and said some things that I think both of you encouraged me to say. But the part that is most exciting for me about this opportunity was that it was a really organic conversation, right? I had the pleasure of seeing James speak on your stage and others, and we were just aligned, right? And normally, it's a hyper competitive industry. So like he loses people to me, I lose people to him. It's not normal that you can just cut right to it with industry stuff. But there's been so much change that the conversation became a friendship and genuine respect. And we ended up aligned on many subjects. So much so that I would hear my agent say, if I go get your opinion, I then go get James' opinion. And then I would hear NextHome say the same thing. So I don't think too many people were surprised. But the beauty of it came from philosophical alignment first. And for us, I think this is a different story than the other consolidation stories you've seen. This is a growing company acquiring a growing company. It very much is aligned from the way NextHome is. Even though it's a franchise and we're a cloud-based company, 100% of their support and leadership is fully cloud-based and virtual. 42% of the franchisees at NextHome don't have permanent space to use shared space like Regis, which is exactly what we do. PPP across the companies is identical. So philosophically, the smallest mid-sized business office model that James started, a lot of teamerages, right? So very, very similar populations of human beings. A fun fact, in 2025, out of the 28,000 agents we onboarded to eXp, only 28 came from NextHome. So no cannibalization, if you will, like in some of the other mergers where they're direct competitors. So it just kind of made a lot of sense. But to your point, we really started discussing this back in September. We're a public company. You can't do things overnight. I think some people have posted on the internet that we bought it because somebody else made a move. Like that's like we're a public company. And by the way, we didn't announce an agreement. We settled, right? And John, even I think you were a little curious when you texted me.
Yes.
Like we closed on a Thursday and Monday we launched our first franchise, right? And we're off to the races is the quote that I saw in one of the articles, and we're just so excited because the part that I'm 100% clear about is that with the amount of change, so just so I don't get misquoted, Compass, Remax, Kelwoob's phenomenal operators. But what I do know about human beings is when change happens, it creates curiosity. So in all three of those instances, they're finding themselves with new ownership, and in Compass, I'm referring to the Anywhere brands. And so not to apply judgment of good, bad, indifferent. It's just human nature. When there is change, you ask questions, you raise your hand. And so for the franchisees who now find new ownership, they're asking, well, is this aligned with my business philosophy? Is this aligned with my views on transparency, on leadership, on how we treat the agent, the consumer, the business model? And so with the platform James is focused on, I think we're the first, up and coming franchise brand in a while that has this opportunity to then still also be part of a billion-dollar publicly traded, well-capitalized company that has similar views on transparency, the things we can do from scale, implementation, data distribution, input. There's just things that NextHome previous to us just couldn't afford to do, right? We have more full-time engineers than James had entire staff, right? So we can spin stuff up. We can, like, if we decide we want to syndicate our data that way, we have an entire data distribution team, and we understand the plumbing and how it gets delivered through the ecosystem.
That's very, very interesting. And knowing both of your organizations, they're both very obviously the agent base is extremely energetic and energized as to each model. James, I've been to the NextHome annual convention, and the energy level was just through the roof. You have an incredible group of disciples, if you would, that have joined you, the franchisees, and as Leo said, about 40% of them are working virtually anyway. But tell us how the other 60%, what their reaction has been, and also where do you see taking the brick and mortar portion of the combined organization?
Well, look, I mean, I think that, first of all, everything Leo said is literally what I would say too. I mean, we are very philosophically aligned, but it goes even deeper than that. Our leadership teams are philosophically aligned, and I think that the agents are philosophically aligned. So I just spent 3 days with Leo and his top 250 people out in New Orleans, and I got to meet them all and talk, chat with them in the hallways and talk about the plan. And it was so clear to me after the first hour that the mindset of those people are exactly the same as the NextHome people. And so it was really a reinforcement of what we're doing and how the leadership teams have created a culture inside their organizations that are very similar, which isn't surprising. So I think that from that perspective, there's a lot of comments online which we just kind of smile, about how do you align these two companies, and the reality is they couldn't actually be more aligned in almost every way that Leo talked about. far as the brick and mortar, I think that's one of the things Leo and I will address quite a bit. There's going to be a segment of the market that cloud-based brokerages, and I'm not overstepping, Leo can jump in on this, that are not going to get. And we're looking at that going, how do we allow the independent operator that wants to do their thing, that still wants to do their own comp strategy and all of that, how do we bring them into the family of companies? And I think the alignment on transparency and what we believe the industry should look like. I genuinely believe this is about, picking a side on where you want to stand in this industry for the consumer. And are you putting their best interests forward? Are you looking out for them? Are you doing the things that are right for buyers and sellers in America? We are aligning to take that stand, and we're obviously attracting a lot of people into our organization that view that. Brick and mortar, it's an option. And it's something that people still want in some cases. In small towns, people like to go in and hang out at the office. And so we're simply opening up this multi-model channel to have the ability to attract people in based upon, Leo said this the other day, and it really stuck with me when I was listening to him talk on stage. It's about meeting the agent at the point in their career where they're at. So if they're wanting to go to the point of being a broker and doing their own thing, we now have a platform for that. If they're at a point where they don't want to do that, they want to just operate or recruit agents and create a downline, we have that platform. So I think from the brick and mortar perspective, nothing changes. It's just a matter of what that operator wants. And we obviously are pushing very heavily to keep that overhead down, because that's one of the margins that you can control, right? There's only a few things you can control on your P&L, and your overhead is one of them, your lease. So we're definitely looking at that and how to make sure that the businesses are operating efficiently. But I so far I can tell you, because I know you'll probably ask this question, how is the membership responding? We've had about 90% of our members understand what this is, how we're operating it, that the team's moving forward as well. Every single corporate staff member on NextHome is continuing on. Like we're going to build this thing together. And I'll also, because Leo and I are both very vocal, it wasn't a surprise. Like I've been talking about the fact that if you are in the messy middle, and I think this is something, unfortunately, by the way, to be clear, because I want to be very clear with my statement. I wish it wasn't this way. But if you are in the messy middle where you don't have enough size in this world that we're moving towards, you have a lot of decisions to make. We chose early on to say, you know what, we can read the tea leaves. We know this is where it's going to go. We want to put two of the best leadership teams in residential real estate together. We want to take that and put a platform together. We want to capitalize that platform. We want to be in a position where we have money to be able to spend. And it all lined up. And so I'd say 90% of our members are excited about it now. And there's obviously always going to be a percentage that are concerned about change, and they'll just see how that plays out over the course of time.
So, and that's well said. And Leo, what competitive advantage does the acquisition give overall to the organization?
Yeah, and great question, John. So I talk about this a lot. Currently today, I think eXp is 4% of every agent in America.
Yeah.
We are a dominant national player. If I look to Gary and KW, which I have the most immense respect, I grew up in Gary's house. My admiration for KW is very real. They're sitting at 136,000 agents. That's 9 to 11% of the total market, depending on how many agents are in the denominator at NAR. And that's the goal, right? So first of all, we're earlier in our eXp story. I think we can 2 or 3x the size of the company in the United States over the next decade. Just based on a comp, if you will, right? Not kind of like airy fairy, like, hey, Gary and Dave did it, we can do it too.
Yeah.
But
well, that's a lofty goals, because those two guys are iconic figures in our industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. But attainable, the Roger Bannister effect, right? But the flip side of that is that at any given point, that means 90% of the people won't be with us. They just, right? And that's if we hit these iconic statuses that are aspirational. Which means that if we have this side chassis inside of the organization that has a different value proposition, we, by definition, increase our opportunity, John. Mm-hmm. And so also sitting in the seat, like, again, I'm a believer in the cloud. It's what I lead. But I can tell you over the last 4 years, there have been thousands of agents across franchises and independents that we just couldn't make it work, right? We're in earnest. There, we explored together what it would look like to bring over 1,200 people across 8 offices with a large staff that had a different economic model. And one of the things we've done well, John, is stick true to our business model. So it's we serve chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry at eXp. There is no rum Renzen, there is no exotic flavors. It's what we serve, and it serves us well. That's how we can do what we do at scale, right? If we try to do 31 flavors of ice cream, we couldn't sell 30,000 homes a month. And so that's now the flexibility of having this purely franchise entrepreneurial thing where it's like, look, we can give you the support and the technology and scale, but we're not the broker. We're not processing your transactions. We're not lawyering and legaling your E&O policy, right? Which is what we do. So I think it's a green shoot. It's not cannibalistic. It's synergistic, and I'm excited for the opportunity it creates.
So it's obviously this is a dramatic and bold move by both of you in a time where there's been a lot of dramatic and bold moves in the last few months in our industry. However, before I get to that, the success of the combined eXp is helping the agents that align with you to be the best real estate professionals they can be. And that means helping them achieve more. And that means transactions going up, agent per agent going up. Tell me a little bit more on how what's your plans to integrate some of the things that James has been doing at NextHome in with eXp and vice versa.
So our industry, I think, over indexes on humans, and that's no surprise, right? The person who's attracted to real estate has to love humans. It's a highly emotional business, the one we're in. We deliver a service that is infrequent, most expensive of someone's life, and during probably the most emotional and heightened part of their life. So if we were to take the disc profile, like I think we over index as eyes, as people who like people. And so I think they're attracted to folks who are in leadership and have strong leadership qualities and have strong opinions about the industry. So I'm seeing a couple of opportunities with that question, John. One is, I think as you see more concentration of financial ownership, right? Like private equity and very shareholder driven behavior. That's different than folks who grew up in the space. What makes both of our companies unique is we are lifelong practitioners, right? Like James being third generation, Holly's third generation, right? I sold homes, Glenn sold homes, Wendy sold homes, Brian sold homes, Amy sold homes. Like it is our DNA. And so with the announcement of the acquisition, we also changed our ticker on Wall Street. So I'm not sure if you caught that, John. We went from EXP to AG&T. And built by agents, built for agents is very, very real. And it was important for us to make that statement in this moment of financial consolidation, synergistic, very Wall Street speak moment. We're still primarily concentrated our ownership in founders, leaders, executive insiders, and agents at our company. We have no outside debt. We have a healthy amount of cash on hand, which this acquisition was done responsibly with cash, no taken debt on. And so it puts us in this position to be strategic and nimble and quick, right? So we can continue to kind of see which, again, like you said, I think every 3 weeks we're having or 3 days, we're having a breaking news moment. Jared James made a funny post on Facebook and Instagram recently at 3:00. He goes, breaking news. And it was like stressful music. And then he goes, nothing happened. No one got sued. No one got fired today.
Well, I don't know how he could make that come up because at RISMedia, we are being hit with every single.
It was the one day, John. It was the one day 2 weeks ago that no one was sued or no one was acquired. And the point was that it's like it was juxtaposition because almost every day something happens, right? Like James said, we were together this week with some of the top folks from eXp, and I was preparing a deck, and I opened Inman and RISMedia to look for a headline, and I found, Zillow Sue's Compass and Emirates. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm about to get in front of 300 people. I need to at least read the article to have. I don't want to ever go on stage and say, what do you think about that? And then I'm completely flat-footed.
Yeah.
But um, you know, the thing I'll say is, John, so much is going to change over the next 3 to 5 years, but so much is not. I fundamentally believe 4 to 7 million Americans will move every single year because of human condition.
Okay.
And we're of the side where we want to create a platform to allow these entrepreneurs to build whatever size dream they want. That's my thesis and operating statement for eXp, and it translates perfectly to NextHome, right? So technology is commoditized and changes all the time. Now NextHome has the advantage of our buying power and our engineering power. So whether build, buy, or partner is always the thesis decision. Whatever's quickest, fastest, and best user experience is what we believe in. And so the synergies will come from that. I'm not like that's a footnote in the thesis, though. I think
Yeah.
it's about who you're aligned with, because all the execution of all that tech is actually predicated on our belief system. Like, what do we want to do with data? Who do we want to deliver it to? How do we want to make it available? That's the tech question that you asked is more of the delivery mechanism.
Sure.
The philosophy of that drives that decision is the important part in this moment in history.
Your shareholders, there's a significant number of your agents that are shareholders of eXp. And that has provided a tremendous loyal base to eXp and your growth. James, at NextHome, the franchisees invested in NextHome. They didn't have equity ownership, but they invested in the organization. And having been and seen you in action, and I know there's a quote from Leo, but I think this is a quote that I think you stand by too. Bigger is not better. Okay, better is better. I love that quote. Okay, and I think that personifies both of you. But at NextHome, you were building a better for your franchisees. There are certain things that are offered at eXp that I've read about and heard that may be applicable and a great attraction to those at NextHome, such as downstream revenue possibilities. And Jim, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about building value for going forward. To none of the agents can really retire unless they build an asset. Tell us a little bit about where you see that headed.
Yeah, I mean, we're early in the stage of, sort of putting the models together, but I'll answer this a couple ways. So value to me is we've done a very, very good job of creating a value proposition, or we wouldn't have been growing at the rate that we have. And I think a lot of that, to Leo's comment, goes to the culture we've built and how people follow the leadership team. We're a very customer focused organization. And I talked about this yesterday when I was at the event in New Orleans. Our organization operates, one of our differences is how we support our membership. So we literally have a US based support team that helps onboard agents and on every single product and service. They never talk to one of our vendor partners. And it's those things that start to add up and creating a different type of culture within the organization. I think strong leadership and just being vocal about things and taking a position, I think people appreciate that. Something that obviously both of us do exceptionally well. There's a part that was fascinating when Leo and I were digging into how eXp operates. And this is a very distinct advantage that we in the franchise chassis, will eventually have. They're processing 30,000 transactions a month. They're the largest brokerage in the world. The end. And they're doing that at an operational efficiency that is no one else does, not to that degree. And they've created systems and things internally that help streamline and automate a lot of the workflows that brokers either have to hire admins to do or spend a significant amount of their time doing. And when Leo talked about having several hundred people, building products out, some of the AI components they're building is just absolutely fascinating to me. Like the ability for agentic AI to look at file and tell the agent in real time like what is not filled out correctly before it's ever submitted. Or you're building marketing material and it tells you this is not compliant with state regulations. You need to fix X, Y, and Z. These are all things, little things, but as John, as you know, they add up into being big things that a broker has to deal with. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking at to bring into the franchise chassis that will allow this independent operator to, streamline their business, decrease the expenses that they have on their books, make it more profitable, which allows them to be more competitive in the market or be a more profitable business. So that's some of the synergy sides of where we see this going. As far as this downline, we haven't obviously, talked about this much yet, but right now, I think we're trying to delineate the two models. There's a franchise model with a very specific value proposition, and there's eXp with a very specific value proposition. And while we work through all of that, I think that the idea is to make sure that there are paths, and then people can choose a path that best suits what they're looking for at their time in the career. So
leveraging some of the assets that have been developed, created within eXp, if you can leverage those and your target
100%.
base, yeah, because
100%. And one other comment, by the way, John, just to be clear. So what I loved about the move that was made here is, the stock is trading as AGNT, and you'll understand when you look at this. And I think people get this wrong. eXp World Holdings, who acquired us, has 8 businesses that it owns, and obviously there's a lot of different components to that business. One of the cool parts now is our agents have been buying AGNT stock because the business is owned by eXp World Holdings, so they're now an owner technically when they buy stock in all the businesses. So we have hats, you'll see that we're out with AGNT, and then our group's getting orange hats with AGNT as obviously the 2 different brands within the organization. So there's a lot of synergy here that everyone's kind of rallying around what we're trying to build or what we are building. I think there's tech, there's leadership alignment. We genuinely think the leadership part and the direction we take the organization is one of the most important things people think about, because how you position yourself in the next 5 years is going to determine a lot of where you'll end up in this business. And I think that starts at the top. So
yeah, I think that's very well said. And both of you, when you look at the combined organization, I know from a brick and mortar standpoint, and actually from where NextHome was, your target base generally were small to medium brokers that were looking for identities and looking for an organization that they could attach themselves to grow. And Leo, on eXp, people used to tell me, so, oh no, eXp, it's individual agents. I mean, you just had an organization in Canada, and I'll butcher the name, in ICTA, INITIA. Initia, okay. 1,000 agents, $2.5 billion Canadian joined the organization. I believe they're in the U.S., primarily Canada, and then a couple of other countries. So your target base are quite different. Yet leveraging some of the assets that you have to make both sides more attractive and more productive puts you in a pretty unique position. And understanding that, let's talk a bit about what you just said, James, about AI. Okay, AI is a critical component going forward to every business in America, let alone our industry. Tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from eXp as far as AI going forward.
So let me just Leo real fast, and then I'm going to turn that over to you. This is a better question for you. Just real fast here. The business model of NextHome was small and medium-sized independents, and that is a business model we still are pursuing aggressively. But just to be clear, we did just start moving into what we call the large operator space, and we just launched a 200 agent office in Central California, over 2 locations. We have many more in the works, and I think you're going to notice that NextHome, as part of this multi-model, is designed to help that independent boutique that is concerned about not having access to listings, or how do I make sure I can margin my business correctly, or how can I be competitive. We have a model for that that's been very successful. Now we're obviously moving into this larger operator space, and that's a very exciting front for us. I'm going to direct the question on the AI stuff to Leo because his team is obviously building a lot of that. So
Thanks for that, James, and then John. That's important as a shift, and that was part of the thesis with the acquisition. That with our resources, NextHome can now go on after large office formats, which is like a very large part of the opportunity we see. So with AI, I think it's a transformational moment in society. All the things that you hear, I think there are hype cycles as well, and there's a lot of. I saw a post the other day that was really well explained where it said people are using AI for the sake of using AI versus having a problem and then asking the question, is this automation? Is this AI? Is this a workflow? Is this an SOP? And where AI is giving great results is on highly repetitive tasks, which at our scale, we do a lot of them. So where in the last 12, 18 months, we've had dramatic improvements on workflows and processes have all been back of the house. And that's the interesting lift that we think will provide to NextHome. For the most part, most of our agent facing stuff, we partner and do build some stuff, but we partner with best in class tech. And part of that is because we believe that these highly entrepreneurial operators will pick whatever CRM they want. They will pick whatever agentic workflows they want, which, Sisu and Voltrail, they're all adding their own agentic workflows. Where we've been able to build stuff in the back end is, how we create a process that used to take, we could do 150 tasks per day per human. It's now up to like 232, right? There are tasks where they were 100% manual, where we've now built, and again, AI becomes interesting with the amount of data you can feed it. So James alluded to that we've built internally a product that does compliance review on marketing specific to each DRE, right? So we can actually put it through a library of past transactions back and forth with each DRE where we've had complaints and rule books and lots of input. And so we can train the data. So a lot of the things that we will leverage for NextHome are not really agent facing. It's how we process the amount of volume that we process and productizing that and delivering that to the broker owner. So again, not even agent facing, but like for what would take an additional staff person can be done through a workflow, can allow James's franchisees to do more with less and be more competitive, or either create more margin or grow their business in a competitive landscape that has a lot of downward pressure because of the agentic tools coming to the world.
So, I think doing that, you're going to help the effectiveness of your agents. And I think you'll both agree, and I know both of you have said this in various times to me, and James has been quite vocal on this last several years from our stage and other stages, that we're in a fight for our industry, a fight for the consumer to trust us and believe in what we do. Now, 9 out of 10 transactions in the United States are you choosing to use a real estate profession, okay, on the buy side or sell side. 9 out of 10, that's pretty good vindication of what we do. However, this battle going forward is a battle for value. It's a battle for trust and effectiveness. What do you see the greatest threats to our value going forward as an industry? And what can we be doing, and what can you be doing better to keep the agent and the center of the transaction?
Leo, you want to start?
I was going to say, you can kick it off if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I mean, I've never been told I'm shy. So,
well, we know you're not shy. That's why you're on my podcast.
I mean, look, I think that there is two fronts that we're facing right now, and the industry respectfully doesn't understand the chess game being played. And I don't mean that to be condescending, but we have the greatest system ever developed in the world, and Leo can share a story of what it's like to not have a multiple listing service, that it's under massive threat. MLSs are being postured and positioned to benefit, certain ideas that I don't personally agree with. These are my personal beliefs, and I think they're caving. I think that they're ironically caving to their own demise at the direction of what's happening because they can't stand up for what's right for the consumer. I've not been shy about the fact that private listings are a massive threat to the industry in so many ways. And John, you know this, I've talked about it. For somebody who's been in the industry longer than 95% of the people in the industry here today, even though I'm young, I'm third generation. I remember the days of the MLS book. I remember what the system was like before the MLS existed. I remember before it was on the internet. I remember when my parents would get dressed up to go get the book every month at Multiple.
Right.
I remember when my grandfather used to hold back inventory and sell it internally before he shared with everybody else, because that's how you did it. And John, you know what I'm talking about.
Unfortunately, I do.
You do, right. And I think the industry has been very much, there's a ruse going on that sellers don't have choice and optionality, which is just so freaking inaccurate. And the reality is, I guess nobody wants to listen, because what happens in this world is you're going to see 5 or 6 large companies, us being one of them, candidly, that will play in this game. And that world looks like 5 or 6 companies that are going to control inventory, and the MLS is probably a fragment of what it is because people don't understand what's happening. And I'm not saying that like we agree with this. I'm just saying this is the world that we're facing right now. And I think it's a scary thing from a consumer perspective. We built a system that is so good that sellers get maximum exposure and buyers can find what's for sale without having to have secret handshakes and knowing the right person to call. We've gone from, we've removed so much of the discriminatory practices because of transparency, and we're going the other way. And look, I'm not shy about it, and I'm happy to say it on record. One of the reasons, not the reason, but one of the reasons that we also affiliate with eXp is because of their size. If this is the world we're going to play in with private listings, well, then I want to be aligned with a company that has a hell of a lot of inventory.
Well,
For me,
you're aligned with now one of the giants. But
correct.
I also, and I know you alluded to this, but I'll also mention the following. 2 of the most iconic figures in the history of the industry, which have already been mentioned, Dave Liniger and Gary Keller, both said in their own words that the MLS is the envy of the world. Okay, it is the envy of the world. And now we're at a crossroads, and you're talking about the crossroads. And so, Leo, give me your perspective on what's next for eXp as far as this crossroad is concerned.
I've been saying it for 2 years, starting with your stage. First of all, like, we as a company fundamentally believe in the value of the MLS because we operate in 27 countries that don't have MLSs. I think the word monopoly gets thrown around. If you want to see a monopoly, go to the UK, go to France, go to Spain, go to Australia. Australia's monopoly is so strong that not only do agents have to pay, they upsell sellers $2,500 non-refundable, like non-performance based packages. So there's countries where the commissions are stated as lower, but the costs of the seller are equal to or greater than here. And most of it is upfront non-refundable versus performance-based, success-based, like we have in the United States. So when you look at the net cost and the time it takes, right? We're number 1 in the UK by listings taken and listings sold, which is a phenomenal feat for being 5-6 years old in the UK. But it's 6 months to sell a house from contract ratification, right? The process is completely different because you don't have this one highly incentivized human being making sure it gets there, or actually 2 driving the process forward. The access to data, like what's at risk, and I think it needs to be said louder. Like, we enjoy one of the most liquid real estate markets in the world. The concept of a 3.5% down loan doesn't exist outside of this country. And 90% LTV cash out refinances. These are all things that are predicated for a bank to be able to have empirical data of what's true and what's not true. We have many states that are non-disclosure states. So if you don't live in Texas or in another state with non-disclosure, there's no public record to look up, right? All deals transfer on public disclosures is $1, right? And public record data, if you live in a state like Virginia or Maryland, where the area I grew up selling, you have no idea about condition, right? Public record, especially in DC, where homes were built 100 years ago, it could say 3-1 on the public record. And it's really a 4-3, and it says
Yep.
1,200 square feet is 6,000 square feet, right? So it's just not good enough unless you have a third party representing rules with, like, for most of the structures are a nonprofit or not-for-profit structure, where their mandate is to just serve as this arbitrary of the truth. So us fierce competitors can rely on it, right? Data becomes an asymmetric warfare lever. And by the way, I know it because I see it in Spain and in France and in Europe,
Yeah.
where the brokerages hoard the list price, the sold
Yeah.
price, the adjustments, because it's part of the value proposition they present to the seller, right?
It's the information. They're controlling the information.
So again, the question is, we will always do what's best for the consumer, comma, and also help our agents win disproportionately. It's not the other way around. And so we want to be aligned with agents who believe in being fiduciaries, representatives of their customers and clients, and making sure that they are delivering a high value of service. And again, I think the risk of all this is additional litigation, DOJ investigations, fair housing violations. There's like the amount of inviting disaster, not only because it's detrimental and it's not the right thing to do, but the liability is crazy to me.
The risk. Another point, and that's I think what's playing out now and will be playing out over the next several months and perhaps years on the MLS front is exactly how you were just describing it. However, it's like an accelerant was put on over the last several months, and of course, private listings is one of the components that's fueling that. But let's talk a little bit more about our industry and how it affects your business. James, there's been you've said a couple times in the next several years, you think the number of realtors may drop and I'm saying real estate professionals that are active in the marketplace, may drop to 500,000 or 600,000.
Yeah, over the next 10 years, but yeah.
Over the next 10 years. Yeah, over the next 10 years. Okay. Do you see that accelerating because of the market conditions today and technology and the consolidations that we're witnessing now?
I do. Leo, don't get mad. I do. I stand behind my comment, and I hope I'm wrong to some degree. And then I hope I'm not actually to some degree too. I think that our industry will become more professional in that regard. I think it's a combination of things. Number one is, and I don't have the stat in front of me, so I'm going to use this kind of generally speaking, but if you look back over the past 5 years, I was looking at a study where team productivity increased by 400% versus a solo agent only increased by like 19%. And that should be a very strong sign of the fact that deals are rolling up more and more under large teams, which obviously both we do and eXp is very well known for. And I think that's going to be a trend you're going to continue to see happen. You obviously have flex partners like at Zillow. They only work with teams. Like it's very clear that business model is continuing to grow. It's a way for new entrants into the space to be able to get some business moving by working for a team, and they get fed deals and they can start to figure out how to get in this career because it's expensive to get into. In the sense of like, if you don't have reserves, it's hard to make it in this business. We all know what that number is. So I think that's something that's a reality. I do believe that AI is going to push on margins long term. I think more efficient companies will that are positioning themselves correctly. Another reason why we're partnered with eXp is that reasoning. How do we incorporate AI to create efficiencies inside the model? But yes, and to be clear, my statement is realtors, and I think that's also based upon the fact that NAR has had a lot of challenges, to put it lightly, and I think that until they get their house in order, which they're working on, to be fair, I think there are challenges there. I think people are questioning association value all over the country. I think you're at the very tipping point of mergers, not just in real estate brokerage, but MLS. Are they decoupled from the association? Is that going to put pressure on realtor associations? You bet, like 100% it will. So like you're seeing this consolidation, and I believe in 10 years, the agent population will shrink to likely half of what it is today. Yeah.
Well,
But
let me
one
let me
comment.
go
I
ahead, Ted.
don't think that that they're being removed from the transaction. I'm simply stating there's going to be less of them that will do more of that business that's there. So
I respect that opinion, and I have similar thoughts in many respects. I think also, and I'll hear Leo on this. I think some of the challenges that have been we've seen the National Association of Realtors and other associations face has created a lot of angst in the marketplace, but also there's been a shift. The shift is agents looking for leadership. And I think that has been one of the key components in the growth of eXp and other organizations that are providing a platform and an organization that supports their agents to enhance their value the way they want to increase their value. Leo, your thoughts?
So agents have surprised me. 24 years ago, I would have said that there was going to be less agents when I got licensed. But I can also tell you that in my first family reunion that I attended, I saw Bob Andrews walk across the stage and collect a trophy for selling like 250, 300 homes. And I just couldn't process that in my head. I'd done like 11 deals that year and I thought I was crushing it. 10 years after that, I was on stage collecting the #1 award at 600 transactions as the #1 team leader in the world. And 2010 was the year I was #1 in the world at Keller, and I was #5 on the Wall Street Journal. Last year, if I had been at eXp selling 603 homes, I would have been number 77 in transactions, or I'm sorry, number 17 at eXp, number 77 on the Wall Street Journal, right?
It's amazing.
Same number of transactions in 2025 as 2010. So it's actually really like 4.2 million total transactions in both years. Goes exactly to James's point of this concentration and the on the hyper productive. What we've seen, because we're the home of the biggest teams in the United States, is the team sizes are getting larger, but the PPP is increasing. So our top 250 teams sold an average of 12.1 homes last year. Team members. That's double our average in the company, over 2 times the average in the company. So what I am sure of is people still want their handheld, right? So over the last 10 years, the last year surveyed, it was the highest use of a realtor. And I think it comes from the complexity and like just the dollars involved and the friction involved, right? The title, the insurance, all the process. So I'm bullish that we will serve a service to the American consumer for a long time.
I agree.
What the value of that service will change in the sense of like more automation, more workflow, more technology, more AI. Will probably automate the more routine and mundane, repetitive tasks, and the human element, the negotiation, the expertise, the relationships you bring to the transaction will only go up in value, right? And a really good analogy for the folks who probably say he doesn't know what he's talking about, because that's fair. People are allowed to have that opinion. Radiology for the last 10 years has probably been the most predicted form of medicine employment that was going to go away. Right? If you think about it, AI is perfect for that. And there's really interesting use cases where AI solves stuff. But the need of radiologists has actually 3x'd. And the comp of really good radiologists has inflated dramatically in that same time period, right? We don't have enough of them in the world because the more AI can do the mundane and the routine, the expertise and the real wisdom and experience and the like, hey, we need to take this further, becomes even more valuable. So I'm bullish for the agent. I'm bullish for our industry as long as, and it will be for us, the driving focus is doing what's right for the consumer, right?
I have two quick questions to bring this session to a close. Okay. First of all, I've heard both of you mention a term that I'd like to know more about. I think the audience would like to know about broker in a box. What's meant by that?
Yeah, no, and that's what what we mentioned earlier, that we can productize things, because again, we are a agent facing company. So there is a lot of things we do behind the scenes to support transactions. Again, there's no app for the agents specifically to do something. It's because of what we do to fulfill and pay and broker and regulate and assess all the things that we do as a broker as the broker of record. We can and we will productize those offerings to add value to the NextHome platform, which again is not taking away from the eXp value proposition, right? That is not what agents are pretty much buying from us, if you will, right? A broker owner who supports an agent could get tools to support their agents in the back of the house. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
James?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're taking what we've already done really well. We started this company 11 years ago, out of our garage, mortgaged our houses and took all of our money to start it. No investors, just built it from scratch. My business partner and I built this thing into this great organization. And people are like, well, what's going to happen? And I go, well, we're going to scale it. And they're like, well, how do you keep the culture? And I said, it's actually not complicated. I'm going to use Gary Keller as an example because, he's iconic and I think it's a good example. Keller Williams scaled culture. They did it exceptionally well for a very, very long time, and built it to be 170,000 agents. I would say that Dave Liniger did the same thing.
Yes, he
We're
did.
going to do the same thing. And so, when people ask, how do you do that? The answer I always give in any interview is you say no more often than you say yes, so that you're protecting the culture of what you've built. So I think that's an important piece. What for us, as we look towards the future, Leo and I and the senior leadership teams have been meeting to sort of figure out what the paths are, but it's pretty, I'm going to put a broker in a box as this. If you want to operate a real estate business where you're the broker and the mentor and you set your own fees and all of that stuff, we have a package now that suits small, medium-sized, and large offices, a formula, a pricing model that is aggressive, that makes sense, allows them to operate efficiently because of the efficiencies eXp is bringing to the operation for us. That will allow that broker to be competitive, make a good living in the future, and align with a company that has what we believe is the right philosophy of putting the consumer first. The broker in a box is the leadership, its product, its service, its mentorship, it's collaboration, and it's also consumer first. And I think we've got an absolutely incredible package now in place and the financial backing to do it. I don't want to skip over that. We partnered with a company that has is worth $1 billion, has a lot of cash, has no debt, and we're in a place where we can put some accelerant on this plan. So we are very excited, and I know my members are too.
Leo, closing thoughts.
I'm excited. The world will change a lot, more than it's probably changed in the 24 years I've been in the business, but I can't be more excited, right? I believe in the agent. I believe in the American way of doing real estate. I think it's the absolute best on the planet as someone who operates all over the world, and I will do everything I can to protect it. And that's my promise to everybody listening.
I'm going to leave you both with a little bit of history. In 1998, at our CEO exchange, CEO and Leadership Exchange, a fellow by the name of Henry Silverman, you may remember him.
I know.
He was the founder and chairman of HFS, a very wealthy New Yorker, said to me he would like to buy a real estate company. And he asked me to sit him next to another person, Bob Kunish, who was the chairman and CEO at that time of PHH Mortgage and PHH Home Equity, and they had a PHH Real Estate Network. Within a short period of time, Henry bought PHH for $1.98 billion. And that, along with his acquisition of Century 21, Coldwell Banker, ERA, created what is now the Anywhere brands, which is now Compass. My point of bringing that up is our CEO exchange is a wonderful event. 400 of the best people in the industry come in and talk. They share ideas, visions, get to know each other, and network. I'm not sure I could afford to have any more CEO exchange because every time we have a CEO exchange, another company is merging or acquiring with another company from our dinner. Okay. But anyway, I think it's great for our industry. I think what you've done, both of you, are creating the future. I applaud you both. Both brands will be very, very fun to watch. I look forward to seeing you both in person at the CEO Exchange, if not
We'll be there.
beforehand. And I thank you both for taking your time out to be part of this. And our audience thanks you as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, John.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.